Hello, everyone. My name is Soud Nassir. I'm a PhD student at the University of Technology, Sydney. I'm here presenting also on behalf of Taqwa Leong, who is not here today. And our talk is about traversing boundaries, understanding the experiences of aging Saudis. And to start off, I want to highlight that this is a method paper that aims to highlight some of the cultural, social, and religious consideration when conducting SIGCHI research in Saudi Arabia. And to sort of give a backdrop or a context to this, the fieldwork is actually part of a bigger project that aims to design technologies to support older people in Saudi Arabia. And this fieldwork is in particular about understanding the daily experiences of aging Saudis and what is it like to age, considering gender, taking into consideration culture, education, technology, and so on. And conducting fieldwork in Saudi Arabia will be a bit challenging in the sense that the context is very conservative and it's very influenced by religious and cultural values. And so we need to step back a bit and sort of look at what things we need to think about before going into the fieldwork. So we've looked at previous work that's been done, and one of this was Abu Qadir's work on privacy. As we see here, privacy to Saudis is not about individual privacy, as in the West, but it's actually extended to the family, the neighborhood, and the community as a whole. And it's also associated with honor and sanity. And people, because of this, people do not necessarily want to talk about their personal lives to strangers outside of the family. So conducting research in that context means that you sort of need to establish mutual trust before going in. The second thing we want to highlight here is that cross-gender communication is sort of culturally inappropriate. There is a lot of boundaries to this because when females and males talk to each other, a chaperone normally would be present to mediate that conversation. And a chaperone here in this sense will be a male immediate relative. And so we've seen researchers going around this by using snowball sampling methods and using online forums where anonymity would provide, will sort of take down that wall of segregation. Now, the third thing we want to add to this project, I think, and it's unique here in the sense that it's about aging. Older people have an authoritative role, and this is rooted in culture, in religion, and sort of they demand respect. And so when we go into the field, we sort of need to give them control as much as we can. I'm going to try and situate myself as a researcher here to sort of to be more reflexive of what I'm doing. In terms of privacy, yes, I'm from Saudi. I'm a Saudi national. I speak the language. I was born and raised there. But also I'm considered a stranger to the participants because I'm going to be talking about their personal lives. But I'm not related to them in any way. I'm also a male researcher in the sense that when I'm interviewing a female participant, it means that a chaperone might be present and there might be an external influence on the conversation at hand. And the last thing is that I'm younger than our participants, which means I need to sort of give them, again, control as much as I can. Now, we've decided in this project to use interviews, but not only interviews. We've decided to use probes simply because probes allow for a minimal external influence, and we've used it to sort of supplement also the interviews. Now, diving into the fieldwork, we've decided to use snowball sampling method as earlier research suggested its effectiveness. And what we did is we created these invitation letters and information sheets, and then we started recruiting participants. But one thing we did not do is initiate contact with female participants simply because we wanted to respect their boundary around cross-cultural communication, and we wanted to wait until we meet them face-to-face. And with this, we recruited 14 participants, 6 of whom are females. We've had a selection criteria. We've looked at active older people who are mentally and physically active, literate, simply because we wanted to try out probes to supplement interviews. And also, we were looking at people who live at home because in Saudi, people grow up and live at home with their families, which is a bit different in the context of the West. And to sort of reflect on this, we found out that the snowballs method was actually very effective. And trying and getting that trust or the use of this method generate trust between us as the researcher and the referrer. It's also sort of a personal vouch, and this is very valid in Saudi Arabia. But it also created some problems because we've had occasions where we met participants, they agreed to participate, but they did not know what the research is about. They agreed simply because, their friends asked them to participate. And so we had to spend that first meeting trying to, confirm their participation, explain what the research is about, what we're doing, and how we're going to go from there. We actually had one drop out from that initial interview. The second thing is that with referral, they're not necessarily aware of the selection criteria we have. And sometimes we get referred to participants who are not within the scope of the project. So out of respect for both the referrer and the referee, we would actually conduct the interview, but we would not include the data. And last but not least, we were saying that we did not directly communicate with female participants, rather relied on chaperones to deliver the message. When we met them, they were very happy to participate, but then they had a vague idea about what the research is. And again, we had to go back one step and explain the research, and it felt overwhelming to them because we explained the research, then do the interview, then give them the probes all in one day. So the interviews. We've decided to do face-to-face interviews with participants in their home settings simply because we wanted to explore that area where there's a lot of interactions, people living together, families in the same household. So we've explored that. We've done it in an informal way to sort of allow people to express their feeling easily. We were worried about external influences from chaperones and guardians being present. And there's one thing I think we want to add here is that there's a common distinction, particularly with Arabs, in the sense that they sometimes say what is socially desirable and not necessarily what they believe. So prose here was very effective in that sense. What was it like conducting the interviews? Well, we gave participants control as much as we can. And that means we've allowed them to actually choose the time and the date and where they want to conduct the interview. Apparently, they chose afternoons, weekends to do this, because during the days they're busy. But then that also means that their homes are very busy because people are visiting, extended families are visiting, they have neighbors coming in, and so the household is full of people, full of kids, grandkids, and so conducting interviews in that scenario is actually very challenging and very frustrating at times because we get interruptions a lot. Anyone could come and sit, listen to the conversation it had. We had no privacy, people ask questions. In one instance, we had to change rooms 3 times to sort of get a private space. On one occasion, we did an interview at 12 a.m. on a weekend. But the good thing is, with all of that, we were able to actually explore the interactions around the home. We were able to observe, see how people interact, see how is their domestic space, what is it that they do in their homes. It was also an occasion to sort of build trust. And after the interviews, we were able to sort of directly contact female participants through online social media. Here's our probe kit. We've developed a diary, a map, and we've developed a number of postcards with activities like, draw your family tree, list the technologies that you've used, take photos of this and that. However, we did not include disposable cameras simply because they do not offer control. And privacy is a big issue here. If someone takes a photo and they decided, there's a female participant or there's a female member of the family that they want to be in the photo, they can't crop it, they can't edit, they have no control. And so we decided to actually rely on their smartphones and tell them, use their smartphones, and they have smartphones, to sort of take that photo and then share with us. Now, we've also introduced flexibility. And this was important because we wanted to give participant control and options to sort of, they can write on the paper, they can send us on WhatsApp, they can take a photo, they can record, they can do whatever they want and then send it straight to us. And that's why we included our WhatsApp number and everything on the materials printed. Here's an example of the probe kit. So here's on the left side, you will see the diary. At the top of the diary, we have like a mood box where participants would rank their mood, and then from that, we wanted to use that as a trigger for them to explain and talk about it. We've used postcards, and diaries were actually very helpful to learn more about the participants, but then they did not fill them all because they've sort of reported that they have a routine life and there's not so many variations, and so they filled in maybe the first 3 to 4 pages. Here's an example of the map. One participant was excited about the activity we gave her about drawing a family tree, and she went on and crafted this beautiful tree. She had her kids at the bottom and then her names at the top. The use of technology allowed us actually to sort of also do live and live communication with participants on the moment. If they record something, they send us a photo, we can probe them for more, ask them about the situation, why they are there, and why they decide to do this. Social media, again, here stands out. We see this participant sending us photos of her day, teaching her grandchild, preparing food, crafting a little door handle on the right side. So we learn more about her hobbies, and then we can ask her the follow-up interview. One thing that stood out is that female participants were more forthcoming in the sense that they've used emoticon to express emotions, which is something we did not really see or feel in the interview. We see the example of, on the right side, the participant was saying, the housework is actually overwhelming, and she's using, that crying face to sort of express that. One big thing we did not expect, we've put the probe in like boxes where you can't see through. And when we gave them to participants, we had this idea, from Bill gave it that, people will take it, worry, then get excited, look at it, and be like happy. But this did not happen, actually. People felt disappointed. And we did not realize this until a couple of days later when we met another participant who took the probe kit and thought it was a gift and started thanking us. So said, thank you very much, thank you. And I'm like, no, it's a probe kit, hold on. Yeah, so what we did is we had to sort of present it to them, open the box and give it to them, and then at the follow-up interview, we brought, dates and chocolate in boxes to sort of compensate for that. One thing also that was important here to highlight is that chaperones were not necessarily sort of a bad influence. They were actually active in the probes. They were in one case we had this kin who would record with the parents just going through, oh, can you tell me about your day? What did you do this? What did you do that? And then send us the voice recording on WhatsApp. We had this participant who would do the maps with her daughter, just sitting, it turns into a family activity. And on the other hand of the spectrum, all the people have authority as well. And so we had this one case where the participant gave the whole kit to the child and said, you fill it in. I'm not going to touch it. And we can't really come back and ask the parents, why did they do that? Because they have an authoritative role. I'm younger here. I can't question their decision. Now, to sort of wrap up, we think that the use of technology can really help, and particularly social media, in traversing these boundaries. You can initiate direct contact with female participants. They're more forthcoming. They can talk about emotions. The other thing is that this project is actually very limited in that we're looking at a particular demographic, and we've conducted the research in the west of Saudi where segregation laws are a bit more relaxed. And then finally, I'd encourage you to read the paper. There's a checklist of the things you should probably look at. Thank you very much.
Deepthi Agarwal from the University of Melbourne. I really liked your talk. The narration that you gave was really interesting. I was wondering if you would want to talk about a little about the ending of the field deployments. You said
about
that
what, sorry?
Ending of the field deployments. So how did you end your deployments, your diary study?
Yeah, okay. So I'm just going to quickly do this. I'm going to go back to this. We've ended up with a follow-up interview just after we picked up the probe. So we booked the probe, on day 8, which is a week after we've deployed the probe, and then, use those 2 days to sort of reflect and then prepare questions and then go in and ask for more questions.